Hello and welcome to Better IT for SMBs, Cumulus Global's June 3rd Tuesday at 3 series event. I'm Alan Falcon, CEO of Cumulus Global, and I want to thank you for joining us here, whether you're attending the live broadcast and the live event or you're watching this on the recording on demand. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy day and week. Let's dive right in. But before we do, a couple of quick comments. First off, a little bit info about this session. As you can tell, the audio is muted. This is to prevent any background noise from interference. So if at any point in time you have a question, along the top or right-hand side of your screen, there's a questions window icon. Click that open, I can track that. I'll answer your questions in line or at the end. Also a reminder, we recorded this session. It generally takes us up to 24 hours to get it posted. We'll send you a link. Feel free to share it with colleagues or others if you think they'll find the information valuable. And a quick reminder that our 3T at 3 series is one of many resources we have to read, watch, and explore in our resource center, including weekly bulletins, monthly newsletter, and a resource library with ebooks and white papers that provide good, useful information. Please stop by the website and check it out when you have a moment. We generally get feedback that folks find it helpful. If there's information you're looking for that we don't have, ask us. If we can pull it together, we'll add it to the Resource Center as well. That said, let's start diving in. First, as the description of the session talked about, we're going to address some unique challenges. And there are really 3 unique challenges for the community that we're addressing here today. And this event and our focus today isn't just on small and mid-sized business, SMBs. It's on very small businesses, or VSBs, companies like yours with 20 or fewer employees. This includes sole practitioners and solopreneurs. And what do we mean by that? You're a sole practitioner if you are the business. You're a one-man show or one-woman show. You're servicing the clients. Maybe you contract with someone to help you with the billing, but you're doing the invoicing, the collections, the money management. It's your business. You're out there. Solopreneur, similar needs, similar situation. You're alone, or maybe you have some part-time help, but you're actually looking to build a team that's going to grow with you as you grow the business. And so you're alone now, but you're going to, you have that entrepreneurial spirit. You're going to grow the business. You expect to be adding people, adding resources over the next 6, 12, 18, maybe even 24 months. And then everyone else below that 20 employee mark, we see you as a very small business. And your role is, as an owner or leader of that team, is to set the vision, the strategy, but you're still involved in the day-to-day. You still have day-to-day roles and responsibilities. And so from an IT perspective, how do you ensure that your team has the productive and secure services that they need to work effectively as a team and work for you to help your business thrive and grow? And for these 3 audiences, for these 3 types of businesses, we see 3 unique challenges when it comes to information technology and services. The first, really because it has the biggest impact here, is security. Even though you're a very small business or you're going it alone, you are now being held to the same standards, regulations, and expectations when it comes to security as any other business. The risks are too great for your customers, for your supply chain, for it to be any other way. At the same time, you don't have the internal expertise and resources, and you may not have affordable or reliable access to that expertise and resources from outside your organization. And so we'll talk about how to overcome that challenge as we go forward. Second, as far as impact, is productivity. You want your IT to be efficient and effective. And what's sort of unique about very small businesses is the percentage of employees who are mobile, meaning you might be at a home office, on the road, at client sites, in a co-working space, at the coffee shop between meetings, is much higher. Sole practitioners, solopreneurs, very small businesses tend to be much more mobile and have more issues around mobility than other small and mid-sized businesses. The third aspect when it comes to productivity is that downtime for you has a real and immediate business impact. Let's face it, if you're a sole practitioner and you're living and your entire work is on your laptop, something goes wrong with that laptop and you can't work on it for 2 days or 4 days while it gets repaired or replaced, you're in a bind. You will struggle to deliver to your clients or customers. It could disrupt your billing. It could, disrupt bill payment, cause all sorts of problems. The impact is immediate. Other small businesses, larger small businesses, mid-sized companies, they generally have the resources to have contingency equipment and access to services in place that very small businesses don't have. It's not, downtime is easier to mitigate the larger of an organization you are because of the pooling of resources. The third component we don't want to forget at all is affordability. Small businesses need to watch their budget really tightly. And it's not to say, other small and mid-sized businesses don't care about their budget and don't want to manage it carefully. But when you look at a sole practitioner, for example, let's say you're a consultant, you've got an hourly or a day rate, there's only so many hours and days in the month that you're going to bill. You don't want your IT budget to use that money any more than it has to use up those funds. You want it to be affordable, which means not only keeping your fixed costs low for IT, but your variable costs low as well. And for solopreneurs and for very small businesses, the same is true. The only difference is your IT costs are going to scale as your services scale with your business. You want it to scale with the business affordably and proportionately. And that's part of our strategy that we'll talk about today, is avoiding things like huge jumps in capital expenditures that come in as you grow. So let's dive in and look, because there's still one big issue, and that's resources. And I hesitate to talk about this because it's sort of a ding on my own industry, but let's be honest. Most IT service firms do not want very small businesses, solopreneurs, and sole practitioners as customers. It's for them and the model that they're using to run their business, it's simply not seen as profitable enough, or it's seen as too financially risky to deliver those services to you. And because of that, most businesses like yours, and let's face it, Cumulus Global, we're a very small business as well, can have limited access to the appropriate IT expertise. Where do you get your IT help? From informal relationships, a knowledgeable employee, a friend, maybe even someone who works in IT for a large company. Maybe you have someone whose role is dual. They're an office administrator and they're responsible for the IT, or they happen to be your best salesperson, but they're technically savvy. So part-time, they help out with IT issues, or you hit ad hoc service providers. Something goes wrong, you find someone who can help you with that. Even if you're using the same person over and over again, it's highly transactional. And we want to get past this. And we want to show you that there is a way for you to get reliable, affordable IT services that you want and need for your business. So let's talk about the IT service models, what's out there today, and where we're going when it comes to what we refer to as managed cloud services. So traditional IT service models, the most historical one, the legacy one, is traditional. And this traditional model is break fix. You pay when there's a problem, you call someone up, they help you solve the problem, and you pay them for that help. Think of it as an auto mechanic. You pay by the hour. So break fix focuses on responding to problems, issues, and concerns. And you may, some break fix companies, a lot of them will offer you a package for regular maintenance. Oh, you've got 6 people, 5 people, we'll come to your office once a month for 4 hours. We'll make sure all the machines are updated, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to pay an hourly or a fixed rate for that on-site service as well. So your cost is time and materials. You may bank or prepay hours at a slightly reduced rate. And typically there's surcharges if they're doing any work that's outside of the norm. And so this is a traditional model. And some very small businesses and solopreneurs see this as highly cost effective because you're only paying for what you think you need. But what this model lacks is the ongoing monitor and management and the work that can prevent those problems in the first place. And remember, a problem like a failed laptop, if your whole business depends on you working off that laptop, has a much higher opportunity cost than whatever you'd pay to have a higher level of IT service and prevent that disruption from happening in the first place. The most common model right now for IT services in the SMB market, and even for larger companies, is called managed service. And managed service providers are the IT firms that provide this. And what does managed service entail? It's not just fixing something when it breaks. It's actively monitoring and managing your IT environment and services with the idea that you're going to identify issues before they become problems. You're going to fix issues before they become disruptive. So there's a lot of preventative maintenance and activity that's happening, but you still get those help desk services, and usually without limit. Most MSPs assume on-site service component. Either they're coming on site on a regular basis to do desk side type services, or they've got the resources and the expectation that if certain things go wrong, they're going to dispatch someone to your facility or one of your locations, if you've got more than one, to help you out. Okay, so from a cost, instead of paying as things go on or a block of time, you're going to have a set monthly recurring fee. And most MSPs base that on a formula that counts for the number of devices, the number of people, and or the number of services. Oftentimes, they'll take different costs for different components of your environment, total all up, and simply divide it by the number of people in your company is an easy way of expressing it. But behind the scenes, it's a much more complex formula. Another thing that managed services providers do well is an onboarding process. And when I say they do it well, it's because when they onboard you as a client, most MSPs will give you, particularly the higher performing ones and the better rated ones, will give you a period of time, 3 months, 6 months, sometimes even a year, to migrate standard equipment and services and configurations that they use across all their clients. Now, this is good because for most small businesses signing on with an MSP, the upgrades will help improve performance, availability, and reliability. It's not so good because there's a cost component with that. For the MSP, this is really important because every product or service that they support requires staff, training, expertise, and resources. So higher quality MSPs, the better MSPs, limit the scope of products and services that they'll support to defined sets. You'll have options, but limited options, so that they get the economy of scale to make the service more affordable and, in reality, the business a bit more profitable. And so onboarding and being forced to change parts of your infrastructure is a double-edged sword. Your business will probably benefit, but it does create an upfront cost or an additional cost that's amortized over the length of the contract. When we talk about managed cloud services, we're very similar to the traditional MSP, but with some differences. First of all, we're designed to have that economy of scale, even for very small businesses, including you solopreneurs and sole practitioners out there. So you get the monitoring and the management, you get the preventative maintenance, you get the unlimited help desk services, but our service delivery after that point becomes hybrid, meaning we're going to do the remote monitoring, management, and support, but we need you to be our eyes and hands on site. And part of the way we do that as part of our onboarding is moving you to technology that we can manage and monitor remotely. And that's designed that if there's something that can't be addressed remotely through troubleshooting, configuration changes, software updates, that we can ship a pre-configured device that's a replacement, and you've got the hands on site to swap it out. Or we can make arrangements for someone, a third party, to come on site, climb up on the ladder and change the access point. But let's be honest, if we send you a new networking switch for your wiring closet, we're going to ask you to unplug the switch that's there and plug in the new switch to the power and move the cables to exactly the same ports they're in now. It's a 5-minute job. You can handle it. We can even be on the phone with you. So that hybrid service delivery model creates a cost efficiency. We'll talk about that in a second. Like a traditional managed service provider, managed cloud services come with monthly recurring fees, typically lower than managed service providers because we're not staffing and building in the overhead and the travel time and the expense of sending people on site. That hybrid service delivery model saves money. So in the New England area, for example, where we're headquartered, typical traditional MSPs are charging anywhere from $160 to $240 per seat. That's sort of the average. There are a few that are less expensive. There are a number that are significantly more expensive than that range, but that gives you a sense of the range. Our managed cloud service packages start as low as $50 a month and work up, our standard packages work up to prices that start at $85 a month. The reality is, when all is bundled in, when we've got everything covered, when there's additional services that you might need for regulatory compliance, things of that nature, we may be looking at pricing per user per month that's 22 to 35, maybe even 40% lower than traditional MSPs. And we base our cost on the number of users and then any additional devices and services that you need beyond the core set of services you're getting for your group of users. And we're able to do this and provide these savings because of our cloud forward model. And our onboarding is a bit different than the traditional MSP because of it. So we look to minimize on-premise technology and services by appropriately migrating to cloud solutions. So at a very high level, think of it as if you have a file server, a Windows file server, or a network attached storage, a NAS file server on your local area network, we're going to migrate that data into the file services within your Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace environment. We're going to replace the servers with services. We're going to turn that capital expenditure to scalable operational expenses. In moving that server to services, what are we doing? You're still going to have access to your files. In fact, you'll have easier access to the files, particularly when you're not physically in the office. You're still going to be able to secure. In fact, as part of that process, we're going to work to make sure you're properly secured and permissioned. What you don't have is you don't have the hardware. You don't need physical hardware or logical software to back up the hardware device. We don't need to worry about operating systems and patches and updates. We don't need to worry about air conditioning and power conditioning. And we don't need to worry about component failures. So the number of things that can go wrong with your file services when you're in the cloud as a service instead of on-premise as a service is much narrower. That creates cost efficiency for us from a support and management and operational standpoint, reduces your risk as well. And as I mentioned, we're taking those capital expenditures and making them scalable operating expenses. One of the challenges with servers, particularly if you're a solopreneur and growing the business, or you're a VSB and you're looking to grow, is when you buy a server and put it in your computer closet or your computer room, you're buying you're paying for the capacity you expect to need over the next 3 to 5 years. You've got to buy enough disk space up front so you've got compatible disks and it's configured properly. You're paying for equipment that's going to effectively sit idle for some period of time, maybe forever. If you do need additional resources, you need a memory upgrade, you need more disk storage, you're now buying components and adding capital expenditures to that piece of capital equipment. And certainly when that machine reaches its end of life, before it fails, obviously, you're buying a new machine and investing. And that's another capital. So you have this steer system where you make this investment and things are flat for a while, but then you need to make another investment. It's not scaling with your business, which means you pay more when you're scaling up and you have no way of economizing if you need to scale down. So our cloud forward model in moving services from servers to services simplifies the IT environment. Fewer components, fewer things to administer, fewer things to go wrong. That means fewer resources needed for us, different types of resources and support needed from us. We can deliver at a lower cost. The other side advantage of managed cloud services and this cloud forward model is improved usability. Having your information in your IT in the cloud gives you consistent access to IT services, whether you're on-site, remote, or mobile. If your file service is in the office and someone's out of the office, what are their options? Well, when they leave the office, they can download everything they think they need and hope they missed something, or didn't miss something, or they need a way to connect to the office. And that means connecting over the internet via VPN or through a remote desktop service that's installed locally. Both of those require hardware, software, administration, management, security, etc. It's expensive, more expensive. It adds overhead, which makes it slower. It's less convenient for the user. And the user has to remember that when they're in the office, they access files one way. When they're out of the office, they have to jump through additional hoops and remember what those are and how to do it. So having everything in the cloud, everyone accesses it the same way. And yes, with the OneDrive downloadable application in Microsoft 365 and Drive for Desktop and Google Workspace, you can still have that same network drive, letter drive mapping that you're used to in the Windows environment, even though the data is actually up in the cloud and accessible through that cloud connection. The second area of improving usability comes about cost-effective security. It is easier and less expensive to secure an integrated cloud environment than it is your on-premise. Again, firewalls, VPNs, physical security all come into play, particularly when you're giving remote access to people outside of your office. If everything's in the cloud, we can set the security, we can manage access to users, we can have multi-factor authentication into the environment, as well as into individual files and systems and applications. And we can create a more secure envelope that's the same whether someone's in the office or out of the office. And finally, it gives you improved business resilience. On-premise systems need to be backed up. Your information in the cloud needs to be backed up. The difference is if something goes wrong at your physical site, whether it's an equipment failure or natural disaster or man-made disaster, your systems are at that location and may not be accessible. When things are in the cloud, you can work around power outages and internet outages because you can relocate to anywhere. Anywhere you can get an internet connection, you can run your business. And that gives you flexibility. And we always implement services that back up your data in the cloud. So if something goes wrong with your syncing or an app you're running against your data, or someone deletes and purges information you need, we can get that back for you. We can also archive past users. There's a whole set of flexibilities that improve your business resilience going forward, and we help you take advantage of that with that cloud forward model. So what do we mean when we talk about managed cloud service plans? And we offer 4 standard level of plans. It's really 3 standard level plans and a highly customized one, which is most appropriate for our larger customers. We won't get into it in any real detail here today. So we start with what we call our essential plan. And this is where you get, I talked about our remote monitoring and management. It's that co-management environment where we're doing all the remote monitoring and management, and you as our client are providing eyes and hands. You get our premium services, that's admin and remote co-management services, and we bundle it with the bare essential cybersecurity and data protections that you want and need, and that are required of most businesses. Enhanced email threat protection, that's not just looking at traditional spam and virus and isn't just doing simple sandbox testing of links. It's actually using computer vision to do visual email inspection to look at images and patterns, QR code verifications as well for those types of links, and providing user banners to warn them of potential risk or asking them to confirm whether they know something is safe or suspect and how they want it handled. And so it's a much more robust system, knowing that over 80% of all cyber attacks initiate with email, whether the email is the cyber attack or it's simply working at getting information or credentials to launch a more sophisticated attack. We want to provide that enhanced email threat protection. The second thing we do is we make sure that everything within your Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 environment is backed up to an immutable cloud. We do that because just like with your on-premise servers, you have to worry about data loss and data damage, whether it's to human error or failure. Now, both Microsoft and Google operate on what's known as the shared responsibility model. They run Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace in a way, and they back up their systems in a way to guarantee that the service is available to you. But you as the customer have a shared responsibility because you're responsible for managing access, for setting permissions, and controlling your own data. And so what we want to make sure is that your data is safe from accidental deletions, from untracked changes, from synchronization errors, from data corruption that could happen from an application that's integrated through APIs. There's a whole range of things that can still go wrong where you want your data protected. And certainly, if you're running OneDrive desktop application or Drive for desktop, and your local machine gets infected with cryptoware, it's going to access those files in 365 or in Google Workspace, in your Google Drive and shared drives, and it's going to encrypt those because it operates the same way that a local file server would get encrypted. You want to be able to recover pre-encrypted versions of those files and get your business back up and running. The last thing we include in Essential is next-gen endpoint protection, and this is what happens when you open files on your local machine, your PC or your Mac. It's not just saying, does this file contain the signature and virus? It's heuristically how is it behaving when it opens. And if something looks fishy, we're going to stop it and we're going to roll it back to prevent it from happening. We're going to alert. And so it's a higher level of endpoint protection than traditional antivirus. And that's the essentials. Then we step up to basic, which is our most popular plan. And here we're adding remote monitoring and management of your devices, your end user computers, which includes us capturing local disk encryption keys so you can encrypt your data at rest, not just in motion, and know that should you misplace or forget your encryption key, we can get it for you so you can decrypt data when necessary and decrypt your drive if you need to. We step up our email threat protection to advanced, which includes gray mail management, enhanced zero-day capabilities, and managing DMARC, which is an internet protocol for how your email service tells others to handle email that is suspect but looks like it's coming from you. This is a way to detect if someone's trying to spoof your domain and steal from you or your clients, or if you're having email deliverable issues, we can address the deliverability and make changes to your environment and fix that. We add in web and DNS protection, so you're not downloading viruses and malware from websites. Even trusted websites get infected, and you're less susceptible to denial of service and other DNS types attack. And finally, because we're capturing information remotely about your end user devices, we'll track their age, their warranty, your utilization of it. We can offer extended warranties with accidental damage protection if so desired, and we can help you plan and manage your replacement cycle for cost optimization. From there, we step into business. Typically, this is where you get into VSBs with 5 to 20 employees, or for companies that have additional data security requirements because of the industry and you work in or the demands of your customers. So with our business plan, we're adding in additional security and data protection capabilities, such as data loss prevention, where we can look at the permissions on your files in OneDrive or Google Drive and shared drives or SharePoint on the Microsoft side, compare those permissions against a set of rules and say, hey, wait a minute, this file has protected or confidential information. It shouldn't be shared with this person or externally in general. We can alert and we can strip those permissions off and help manage the protection. We add in security awareness training so you and your team are aware of the current risks, what to look for. That SAT, that training, includes occasional testing where we send an email message that's actually spoofed and we see who clicks. And for people who click, we can follow up and say, hey, this is what you saw. This is what to be on the lookout for going forward. Get better at recognizing when things might not be legitimate and asking for help. We'll help you manage your multi-factor authentication services, and a reminder that studies have shown that MFA services can stop about 90% plus of cyber attacks. So even if your username and password are compromised, having MFA in place can stop the attack from going forward. And we add in advanced administration tools that make it easier to onboard, offboard, and to manage groups dynamically. So the business plan most often fits for larger companies, but we still see it right for solopreneurs, sole practitioners, and very small businesses who need the extra data protection to meet industry security standards, to help with compliance if you're under HIPAA or PCI, FINRA, et cetera, or if your state has privacy rules you need to adhere to, and businesses, even if they're small and very small businesses, that may have seasonal workers who are onboarding and offboarding in a repetitive fashion, where we can automate that and make it quicker and secure and less expensive. And then the Premier plan, as I mentioned, gets into really advanced DLP services, advanced security training that's customized to roles and the nature of your business, as well as other advanced security and mobile and end user device management services that we custom bundle and custom price. So our goal here is to make sure your environment's productive, secure, and cost effective. We've got the plans that can match your needs and priorities to the services and security that's appropriate for your business and your budget. Now, clearly, you may need additional services for regulatory compliance or for business reasons. We have those optimization options and customizations as well, and that can be, message level encryption for your emails, domain identity and access management controls, putting in password management tools so that each of your users needs to only remember one password, and we can manage the passwords for all the individual systems, a whole range of services. And even though we're providing managed cloud services and our focus on what's in the cloud, we want to make sure that you can safely and reliably access those cloud services. So ask us about wireline and wireless network services. We can manage your local area networks, and we do offer VoIP services and unified communication services that integrate with Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace. Additionally, we know as a sole practitioner, solopreneur, or an owner or leader of a very small business that you probably have physical devices that are critical to your day-to-day operations. And for those, we can offer cloud-based business continuity and disaster recovery services. So yes, we're going to back up the files on those devices. We're going to snapshot the image of what they look like. And we give you the ability, should something go wrong with that device, for you to spin up an image of that in a cloud environment accessed remotely that you can use and keep your business running while the laptop, the desktop computer, or that local server that you still have is repaired or replaced and brought back online. And so it's a way to ensure that those disruptions I talked about early on, being part of the productivity challenges for very small businesses can be overcome by providing an alternative way to run your business should something traumatic or disastrous happen to your computer equipment in your on-premise environment. So that said, the third component was affordability. So how do we keep it affordable? As I mentioned, anywhere from $160 to $240 per person for traditional MSP services. Our packages start at $50 to $85 per user per month. That's significant savings, even when and if we need to add in some additional services to meet specific needs. We keep it affordable. And again, our business model, our operating, how we provision your technology, all creates efficiencies that just aren't in place in the traditional MSP world and gives a different advantage. And so, what are your next steps? We always say start with the assessment. What are your needs and priorities? I listed security first, admin and management, making sure you're productive and things are effective and match your business well, and that you've got a good plan for managing it and the support you might need or that you need over time for you, and if you've got employees, for your employees as well. And we have a number of assessment resources that are available, so take a look at them. If you're interested in one, let us know. You'll talk to myself or one of my cloud advisors, one of our cloud advisors here, and we can talk to you about discounts or complimentary assessments if you're thinking of coming on board with us. We're always open to those discussions, and quite often we're offering those services at a discount or for free. So at the time you're ready, check in with us. We'll let you know what's going on and how we can help you there. Once you have a baseline of where you're at and you have a sense of your needs and priorities, that's going to guide to help you select, and we'll work with you on this to make sure you're in the right managed cloud service package. Or if all you need is specific IT services, we do have more traditional IT service plans that aren't all encompassing a package that are a little more a la carte that we can customize. And certainly if you need any of those additional services to meet your needs, we've got those as well. We'll mix that in. That'll give you a plan, in a price estimate, and from then we can help you make sure the scope is right, and we can plan the scope, the timing, and the resources necessary to bring that to fruition to get your business, your team, and yourself on board. And that's where the execution comes into play, and we help you with that as well. So if you have any questions or you're interested in any of this, hit us at info@cumulusglobal.com, the bit.ly URL on the screen, or you can scan that QR code and book time with one of our cloud advisors. We can start talking about where you're at, what you're looking for, and how we can help. And in all honesty, if we can't help you, we'll let you know, and we'll help you find the right resource that can. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. And just remember, if you have any questions for us, you can email, you can call, you can use the link to schedule that no obligation, no cost intro call, or you can contact me directly. Just a reminder, I'm bad at answering the phone and I'm horrible at checking voicemail. So best to email me. I don't have an assistant. So when you email me, I will see the email. If I can't answer quickly, just because of my schedule or I'm busy or I'm traveling, I will have someone on my team get back to you promptly. And so at this point, I want to thank everyone for watching, whether you've attended live or you're watching this recording on demand, and really hope it was valuable to you. Reach out if you have any questions. I'm on this slide. I'll go back to the Q&A for those watching it live, but I'm going to wrap up and end the recording in just a moment. But I do want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day and week to join us. Again, I hope the information is valuable and gives some perspective on how to overcome the challenges you face being a sole practitioner, a solopreneur, or a very small business, and how our model for delivering IT services, being a cloud forward mindset and our managed cloud services, gets you the productive, secure, and affordable IT solutions you want and need. On that, I'll say goodbye. I'll be back for the live folks in just a second for the Q&A. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week.